Every story has a heart. Some make us cry, some make us think, and some change us forever. Here at Amaka's Folktales, we share the kind of stories that live deep inside you. Stories of love, pain, truths, and lessons that time will never erase. Welcome to Amaka's Folktales. Sit back and feel the story. Nne lived in the village of Umooro. She was known by everyone as a kind and gentle woman. Nne was a widow, which means her husband had died many years ago. She raised her two children, Odira and Chako, all by herself. From early morning until late at night, Nne worked very hard. She woke up before the sun rose and tied a cloth wrapper around her waist. Every day, she went to the little farm behind their mud brick house. There, she planted cassava, yams, and vegetables. From digging in the soil every day, her hands had become rough and her back often ached. But Nne did not complain. After farming, Nne would carry a basket of fresh vegetables on her head to the market. The basket was heavy, but she walked with steady steps. At the market, she smiled and greeted other women kindly. She sold green tomatoes and peppers to earn just enough money to buy food and books for her children. If the vegetables did not sell well, Nne would go from house to house in the village, hoping someone would buy a little so she could have enough to feed Odira and Chako. Many times, Nne went hungry so that Odira and Chako could eat. In the evenings, when her children were eating warm porridge or fufu with soup, Nne would pretend she had already eaten. She would say, "I am not hungry. I ate earlier," even though it was not true. She wanted to make sure her children had full bellies before bed. After dinner, she would tuck them under a thin blanket, kiss their foreheads, and pray for them to have a better future. Nne's love for Odira and Chako was as bright as the morning sun. She called them my angels and my blessings. When they got sick, she stayed up all night wiping their foreheads with a cool cloth and checking their temperature. When they were sad or scared, she told them stories and jokes until they all smiled. She did everything a mother could do to keep them safe and happy, even when she was tired or sick herself. Despite their struggles, Nne held a big dream in her heart. She hoped that one day, Odira and Chako would finish school and get a good jobs. She wanted them to succeed and live a life without the hardship she had known. Every coin she earned from selling vegetables, she saved a little for their school fees. She often told them, "Education will open doors for you. You will go farther than I ever did." At night, by the light of a small kerosene lamp, Nne helped them with their homework. Though she herself had not gone far in school, she knew how important learning was. She encouraged them to read and write. Sometimes, she traded extra vegetables for old textbooks so that Odira and Chako could study more. The other villagers saw how Nne cared for her children. They saw her strength and kindness and even nicknamed her the mother hen of Umooro because she protected her children like a mother hen protects her chicks. Nne would laugh softly and wave her hand humbly when people praised her. She did not think she was special. She believed she was just doing what any good mother would do. One evening, after many years of hard work and sacrifice, Odira and Chako sat with Nne outside their little house. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the scent of earth and cooking fires. Odira, who was the older child and now a young man, looked at his mother's worn hands and felt deep love and gratitude for all she had done. Chako, now a young woman, held Nne's hands and leaned on her shoulder. "Mother," Odira said softly, "you have suffered so much for us. Thank you for everything." Chako nodded and added, "Yes, Nne, you have been both mother and father to us. One day, When we have good jobs and plenty of money, we will take care of you. We will buy you fine clothes and a big house. You will rest and never have to work so hard again." Nne's eyes filled with warm tears, but she smiled. Those words were like music to her ears. "My children," she replied in a gentle voice, "I do not mind the work or the sacrifice. I thank God that you are growing into good people. If you take care of me when I am old, that is good. But even if you do not, seeing you both healthy and educated is reward enough for me." The children hugged Nne tightly under the colorful sky. In that moment, all the pain and hunger Nne had endured felt worth it. She believed with all her heart that her children would keep their promise. Nne looked up at the four stars appearing in the skies and whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. She felt happy and hopeful about the future as she held Odira and Chako close, like a mother hen sheltering her chicks under her wings. A few years later, Nne's dreams for her children came true. Odira and Chako finished their schooling and graduated with proud smiles on their faces. On the day of Odira's graduation, Nne traveled by bus to the town where the ceremony was held. She watched her son walk across the stage in a neat shirt and trousers to receive his certificate. Nne clapped and cried happy tears at the same time. She remembered all the days of carrying vegetables on her head and all the nights of studying by the lamp. And now, she saw those sacrifices were worth it. Her son was now a graduate. Not long after, Chako also finished her studies. She had studied accounting and soon got a good job in the city. Chako fell in love with a man from a wealthy family. He was kind to her and loved her dearly. They did not date for long before they decided to marry. At the wedding, Nne wore a new dress that Chako bought for her. It was the most beautiful dress Nne had ever owned. A soft blue lace that made her feel like a queen. As she watched Chako walk down the aisle in a white gown, Nne's heart swelled with joy. She gave her daughter's hand to the groom with a smile, proud and hopeful that Chako would have a happy home. Odira also found a good job after graduation. He got a job working in an office at a large company in another town. It was his first real job, and he was also determined to work hard and make his mother proud. When he got his first paycheck, Odira sent some money home to the village for Nne. He included a short note that said, "For the best mother in the world, love, Odira." Nne held that note and money in her hand and wept tears of joy. It was not the money that touched her heart, though it helped her buy some needed things. It was the love behind it that filled her heart with joy. With both children doing well, life became a little easier for Nne. She no longer had to worry every day about having food. Odira made sure to send money regularly, and Chako bought her mother gifts like new wrappers, shoes, and sometimes even a bag of rice or a tin of milk when she visited. Nne still went to her small farm, but now it was just to keep herself busy and share produce with neighbors. Not because she had to survive. She walked a bit straighter and smiled a bit wider these days, filled with pride in her children's success. In the beginning, Odira and Chako kept their promise to stay in touch and take care of Nne. Odira moved to the new town for his job, but he came back to the village every few weeks to visit. Each time he arrived, he hugged Nne and brought her a little something. Maybe some groceries or even a small radio so she could listen to the news and music. Chako, now living in the city with her husband, would call Nne on the phone almost every week. When Chako came to the village, she sometimes brought her husband along. They would fill Nne's kitchen with laughter and carry bags of gifts like tea, medications, or warm blankets for her. Nne was overjoyed. All her years of suffering felt worth it. In the evenings, she sat with her friends or neighbors on a wooden bench under the mango tree and proudly told them about Odira's job and Chako's new life in the city. My son works at a big company, she would say with a broad smile. My daughter is married to a good man and lives in a fine house in the city. They have not forgotten me. Nne's friends were happy for her, though a few were a little jealous. Most people in Umooro knew how much Nne had struggled. So seeing her children become successful was like celebration for the whole village. Every night, Nne thanked God for blessing her children. She prayed for their continued success and happiness. In her heart, she felt at peace. Her children had fulfilled her deepest wish, and they still showed her love. Nne slept each night with a smile, thinking of the bright future still ahead for all of them. As the years passed, things began to change slowly. At first, Odira and Chako visited often and called as they had promised. But then life became busier for both of them. Odira in his new town met a lovely woman named Ada. They fell in love and decided to get married. Nne was overjoyed to hear that her son had found a wife. Odira brought Ada to the village to meet Nne before the wedding. Ada was polite and called Nne Mama with respect. Nne embraced her soon-to-be daughter-in-law and felt grateful that Odira would have a partner to share his life with. At the wedding in Odira's town, Nne was honored and happy, though she felt a bit sadness knowing her little boy was now a married man. After the celebration, Odira and Ada settled in the town, and Odira became even more focused on his job and his new family. Chako too had her own busy life in the city. She did very well at her job and also had many new responsibilities as a wife in a big family. In the early months of her marriage, Chako still called Nne regularly and even visited a couple of times, bringing her husband to the village. But as time went on, those calls and visits became less frequent. The city was very busy and fast-paced, and Chako often found herself caught up in one thing or another: work meetings, social events with her husband's family, or community activities. Sometimes she thought of calling her mother, but by the time she finished her task, it would be late at night, and she would promise herself to call the next day. As for Odira, after marriage and a promotion at work, he found less time to travel back to Umooro. The journey was several hours by car or bus, and taking time off became difficult. Odira would still call Nne, but now perhaps once every 2 weeks instead of every few days. The calls were also shorter. Often, Odira sounded tired from work. Sometimes, Ada would call him from another room while he was on the phone with Nne. Then he would say, "Mama, I'll call you back later, okay?" But the days would pass, and he would forget to call back. Nne began to notice the silence. Where once her phone rang cheerfully with her children's calls, now days went by without a ring. She would wake up and check her cell phone to see if perhaps she missed a call, but there was nothing. In the evenings, Nne took to sitting on her wooden porch outside after dinner, gazing down the dusty road that led into the village. She hoped to see a familiar shape or hear the sound of Odira's laughter or Chako's voice calling, "Nne, I'm here." But the road stayed empty and quiet. Sometimes, a neighbor's motorcycle would rumble by, and Nne's heart would leap, thinking for a second that maybe Odira had borrowed a bike to surprise her. But the bike always passed her house and continued on. One afternoon, Nne swept her yard and prepared Chako's favorite meal, yam porridge with vegetables, because she had a feeling Chako might visit soon. She waited all day, but Chako did not come. The food grew cold, and eventually Nne ate alone, telling herself that maybe something important had kept Chako in the city. She carefully wrapped up the remaining food to give to a neighbor so it wouldn't go to waste. Neighbors began to notice that Odira and Chako hadn't been around in a while. One of Nne's friends, Mama Chinyere, asked gently, "Nne, it's been some time since I saw Odira or Chako. Are they well?" Nne forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, They are fine. They are just very busy with work and family, she replied. You know how it is when children grow up. They have many things to do. Mama Chinere patted Nne's shoulder kindly. True, they have their lives, but they will come when they can, I am sure. Yes, they will, Nne said, as if trying to assure herself as well. Inside, however, Nne felt lonely and hot. She missed her children terribly. The house was too quiet without Odira's energetic chatter or Chako's bright laughter. At night, the only sound was the crickets outside and the occasional cry of a distant owl. Nne would lie awake on her bed, looking at the ceiling and wondering, did I do something wrong? Why do my children not call as much? She would shake her head and wipe her eyes, whispering to herself, no, they love me. They are just busy. Times are different now. Nne kept her hope alive. Each morning, she said a prayer for Odira and Chako. She prayed that they were safe, healthy, and happy. She asked God to guide them and to remind them of home. Whenever her phone rang, Nne would answer with joy, hoping it was one of her children. If it was, her day would brighten immediately. She never mentioned her sadness or asked why they hadn't called. Instead, she listened to their stories and updates eagerly, telling them, I am proud of you. I am fine here. Do not worry about me. In her heart, Nne believed that soon things would improve. Maybe during the next holiday or festival, Odira and Chako would both come home and the house would be full of laughter again. Holding on to that thought, Nne endured the quiet days. She tended to her garden, visited the market, and tried to stay busy. Though she felt lonely, she remained prayerful and hopeful, trusting that her children still loved her and would return to her open arms when they could. One Sunday afternoon, Chako went to a prayer house in the city with a friend. She had been feeling uneasy for some time. Despite her outward success, Chako had worries in her heart. She and her husband had been hoping for a child since they got married, but so far, they had not been blessed with one. Chako also sometimes felt a strange heaviness at home and had recently woken up from a bad dream about her mother that left her shaking. In the dream, she saw Nne standing at the foot of her bed in the dark, saying nothing but looking at her with eyes that glowed like burning coals. Chako had woken up covered in sweat, heart pounding. She tried to forget the dream, telling herself it was just a nightmare. But the uneasy feeling stayed. So when her friend invited her to a popular prayer house known for a powerful prophet, Chako agreed to go, hoping to find peace and answers. The prayer house was a simple hall with wooden benches, but it was crowded with people seeking miracles and guidance. The prophet, a middle-aged man in a shiny suit, spoke loudly and with confidence. He moved up and down the aisle, calling out people's names and their problems as if he could see into their lives. Chako watched in awe and a bit of fear as the prophet revealed details about strangers that seemed amazingly accurate. She clutched her handbag tightly, feeling nervous but hopeful that perhaps God would use this man to help her. Suddenly, the prophet pointed in Chako's direction. You, young woman, you in blue dress, he called. Chako's heart skipped a beat. She was wearing a blue dress. She raised her hand timidly, and an usher guided her to the front of the hall. Chako felt everyone's eyes on her. The prophet closed his eyes for a moment, then spoke with a dramatic, trembling voice. I see an older woman in your life. She is close to you like a mother. Chako's stomach tightened. Yes, my mother, she said in a small voice, feeling a chill go through her. Yes, the prophet exclaimed, eyes still shut as if in a vision. This woman, she appears kind on the outside, but I see darkness around her. The spirit is revealing to me that someone very close to you, a woman who carried you as a baby, is not what she seems. Chako began to tremble. She thought of her dream recently. Her mother's eyes in the dream had glowed with an unnatural light. The people in the prayer house murmured. The prophet continued, now opening his eyes and looking directly at Chako. My sister, do you know that there is a witch in your family? Chako gasped. Her legs felt weak. She shook her head in confusion and fear. A witch? In my family? She whispered. The prophet nodded gravely. Yes, the spirit world is showing me that your own mother is involved in witchcraft. He said it plainly and with authority. She is the one behind the troubles in your life. That is why some things have not worked out for you. Chiako's eyes filled with tears. She felt her heart drop as if a heavy stone had been placed there. How could it be? Her sweet mother, Nne, the one who loved and raised her. But the prophet spoke with such certainty, and he did not even know Nne. How would he invent such a thing? Chako thought. Perhaps it must be true if he could see it in the spirit. The crowd was quiet, watching Chako's reaction. The prophet put a hand on her shoulder. Do not be afraid, he said. The devil uses people, even those close to us. But God is more powerful. We will pray for you. You must be careful and prayerful. For now, do not eat or drink anything she gives you. Just be safe. Limit your contact with her until this evil is broken. And to protect yourself fully, you should join a special 3-day fast and prayer for deliverance. Chako nodded numbly, tears rolling down her cheeks. She felt both fear and sorrow. A part of her heart cried out that this couldn't be true. Nne had never shown her anything but love. But another part, the fearful part, remembered stories she had heard of witches hiding under friendly faces. And there was that terrible dreams. She was so confused and scared that she found herself believing the prophet's words. After the service, the prophet's assistant gave Chako a small bottle of holy oil and some instructions. They asked for a donation for the special prayers they promised to do on her behalf. Chako, shaking and desperate, handed over some money without question. They told her to rub a bit of the oil on her head each night and pray with all her heart against any evil attacks from her family. Chako went home that day with a heavy heart, clutching the oil and a fear she had never known before. For a few days, Chako kept this revelation to herself, unsure of how to deal with it. She avoided calling Nne, afraid she might say something she shouldn't or that she might somehow invite harm. Each time her phone rang, she jumped, worried it might be her mother. At night, she slept poorly, tossing and turning. When she did manage to fall asleep, she sometimes saw her mother's face in nightmares and woke up in terror. Finally, Chako decided she needed to talk to her brother. Surely, Odira would know what to do. One evening, she called Odira in his new town. Odira was surprised to hear from her at an odd hour. As soon as Odira picked up, Chako's shaky, hushed voice came through. Brother, something is wrong, she began. What is it, Chako? Are you all right? Odira asked, concerned in his voice. Chako took a deep breath. Odira, please, keep an open mind. So I went to a prayer house on Sunday, and the prophet there said some things about Nne. On the other end of the line, Odira frowned. About Nne? What do you mean? Is she okay? It's not about her health, Chako said slowly. He said that Nne is doing witchcraft, that she's the reason I haven't been able to get pregnant yet, and other problems. There was a heavy silence. Then Odira's voice came, firm and a bit angry. Chako, what are you saying? How can you even think that about our own mother? I don't want to think it, Chako cried, her voice breaking. But the prophet knew things. Odira, he described her. I had a dream about her being strange, and he knew without me telling him. How could he know? He said we should be careful. Odira paced in his living room as he held the phone. His wife Ada was nearby and noticed his troubled face. Chako, listen to yourself. That man doesn't even know our mother. You think Nne, our mother, who suffered so much for us, is a witch? Is it even possible? That is impossible, Chiako. Chiako sobbed softly. I know how it sounds. I feel horrible even imagining it. But, but what if it is true? What if Nne has been hiding something? Remember stories in the village of mothers who were jealous of their children's success? What if? Odira cut her off, raising his voice. Stop, Chiako! You are letting fear speak. Nne is not like those women in stories. She's a good mother and a good woman. A godly woman at that. She prays for us. Ada, who had been only hearing Odira's side, touched Odira's arms and whispered, What's going on? Odira pressed the phone to his chest for a moment and whispered back to Ada. Chiako went to some prophet who said Nne is a witch. Ada's eyes widened in shock. She herself had heard of such things happening to other families. Quietly, she asked, Do you think it could be true? Odira looked at his wife in disbelief. Ada, not you too. This is my mother we are talking about. Ada bit her lip. She respected Nne, but the idea frightened her as well. I know, but sometimes these things happen, don't they? We've heard stories. I mean, do you really know everything about her? In my hometown, there was a case where a mother was holding back her son's progress with evil charms. Maybe your sister's prophet sensed something. Odira felt a chill. He had also heard such rumors and tales, but he had never imagined they could ever be linked to his own dear mother. It's not possible, he insisted, but his voice was quieter now, unsure. Doubt was creeping in, no matter how he tried to push it away. Chako heard muffled talking on Odira's side. Odira, are you still there? She asked. Yes, I'm here. Odira answered, sounding tired. He sighed deeply. Chako, I can't believe this. I don't know that prophet, but I do know our mother. Think of everything she did for us. How could she possibly wish us harm? I don't want to believe it either, Chako said softly. But the things he said, they felt true. And Ada also thinks we should be cautious just until we know more. I'm scared, Odira. I am so scared. Odira closed his eyes. His heart felt like it was being pulled into two directions. On one side was the memory of Nne's kindness and sacrifice. On the other side was the fear that maybe, just maybe, there was something dark he didn't know. He remembered how lately some things at work had gone wrong. 2 projects he handled had failed unexpectedly, and he had been feeling under the weather often. At the same time, he blamed stress. Now, Chako's words made him wonder if there was another cause. Could it be related? He shook his head, trying to clear it. Okay, Odira said at last, his voice heavy. I don't believe Nne would hurt us, but I also don't want to ignore this if you are truly frightened. So what do we do? What do you want us to do? Chako sniffled. The prophet advised me not to accept anything from her for now, and to keep some distance. I think we should do that, just for a while. Maybe we should pray on our own too, and watch, just to be sure. Odira felt sadness wash over him. The idea of keeping their loving mother at a distance felt so wrong. Just for a little while, he agreed quietly, hating the words even as he said them. Maybe until we figure out what's true. But Chiako, promise me we will not accuse her or do anything harsh without proof. She's still our mother, remember. Chiako agreed. I won't accuse her openly. I just need to be careful. I'm so afraid, Odira. After they hung up, Odira sat in silence for a long time. Ada came and sat beside him. Taking his hand, "My love," she said gently, "I know this is hard. Maybe it's not true, but it might be wise to be careful. There is no harm in being cautious, right?" Odira nodded slowly, his throat tight. "Right," he murmured, "just to be safe." That night, Odira found it hard to sleep. He kept seeing images from his childhood, his mother smiling at him or feeding him when he was sick. Could such a woman be really evil? He almost called Chako back to tell her this was all a big mistake. But then he remembered Chako's shaky voice and Ada's concerned eyes. They were all scared. In the end, Odira decided that maybe it was best to be safe. For now, he too would keep a careful distance from Nne until things became clearer. In the weeks that followed the prophet's revelations, Nne felt a change that she couldn't explain. Odira's and Chako's behavior towards her shifted in a way that left her puzzled and hurt. Chako, who used to call every week, suddenly stopped calling altogether. When Nne tried to call her, Chako often did not answer the phone. Once, Nne dialed Chako's number and it rang and rang without response. Another time, Chako's husband answered and said politely, "Ah, Mama, Chako is a bit busy right now. She will call you back." But the return call never came. Nne was surprised. Chako had never ignored her like this before. She told herself that maybe Chako was truly busy or perhaps had traveled. Yet in her heart, a seed of worry had begun to grow. Odira too began to distance himself, though in a more subtle way. He still called occasionally, but something in his tone had changed. He sounded distracted and cautious on the phone. Their once warm conversations became brief and formal. Instead of the usual cheerful mama greeting, he spoke softly and careful. "Yes ma, I'm fine, work is fine," he would say, and then quickly add, "Ada is calling me, I have to go, I'll talk to you later." One weekend, Nne called Odira and suggested, "My son, I was thinking of visiting you and Ada next month, just for a few days. I miss you." There was a pause on the line that went on too long. Finally, Odira cleared his throat and said, Next month? I am not sure, Mama. Work is very hectic. Another's parents might be visiting us then. Maybe it's better you wait a bit. We will come when we have time." His words were polite, but they cut Nne like a knife. He had never hesitated to welcome her before. Feeling a lump in her throat, Nne simply replied, "All right, my son, no problem." After hanging up, she sat quietly on her porch, holding the silent phone on her lap, confusion and sadness swirling in her mind. Nne noticed other small things that made her uneasy. Chako did not invite her to the city anymore at all. In the past, Chako would sometimes ask her, "Nne, why not come spend a weekend with us in the city? We can go to the market and buy you many things and you rest a bit." But now, months had passed with no such invitations. When Nne mentioned in a call with Chako's husband that she would love to see their home sometime, he grew quiet and then changed the subject. At first, Nne wondered if she had unknowingly offended her children or their spouses. She searched her memories. Had she said something wrong during her last visit? Was it something she did? She could think of nothing that would make both Odira and Chako grow cold. One evening, Nne sat with her friend Mama Chinyere outside under the moonlight. The crickets chirped as the two older women shelled melon seeds and talked. With a heavy sigh, Nne finally poured out her chest. "Sister Chinyere, I am worried. Odira and Chako have been so distant lately. They hardly call. And when I call, they are in a hurry or they don't pick up. They don't want me to visit. I feel like something is wrong." Mama Chinyere, a plump woman with kind eyes, reached over and squeezed Nne's hand. "Sometimes children become selfish when they start enjoying city life," she said gently. "They forget the old mother in the village is waiting for them. I have seen it before. Nne frowned and shook her head. Odira and Chako are not like that. They promised to take care of me. They love me. I know they do. This feels different. Like they're avoiding me on purpose. Mama Chinyere clicked her tongue in sympathy. What will you do? I think, Nne said slowly, I think I should go and see Chako. Maybe she's really not well or something is truly keeping her from calling. If I see her face to face, I will know if she's alright. And if I did something wrong, she can tell me. Mama Chinyere nodded. That might be good. Sometimes talking in person is better. Just go and see your daughter. I'm sure everything will be fine. That night, Nne made up her mind. She would go to the city to visit Chako without waiting for an invitation. Even if her daughter was busy, surely Chako would not turn her own mother away at the door. It had been so long since they spent time together. Nne yearned to hug her child and hear her laugh. The following week, Nne prepared for the journey. She harvested some fresh yams and plantains from her farm. She also gathered vegetables like okra and peppers and bought some palm oil and dried fish from the local market. These were all delicacies she knew Chako loved, and Nne wanted to bring gifts from the village. She carefully packed them in a woven basket. With each item she packed, Nne felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She told herself, perhaps I am worrying over nothing. When Chako sees me, she will smile and be happy. We will spend a nice time together and whatever misunderstanding is between us will melt away. Early one morning, Nne boarded a bus headed to the city. The journey was long and road bumpy. She sat squeezed between other passengers, clutching her basket of gifts tightly on her lap. As the bus left the familiar village scenery and moved towards tall buildings and busy streets, Nne's heart pounded with both hope and nervousness. She prayed silently the whole way, asking God to make the visit a good one. By the time the bus pulled into the city's main station, it was afternoon. Nne carefully got down with her basket and navigated through the noisy crowded motor park. Cars honked and people hurried by. The city was hot and full of energy. It took Nne a while, asking strangers for directions, to find a taxi that knew the address Chako had given her long ago when she first moved. Thankfully, Chako still lived in the same house in a quiet upscale neighborhood with tall gates. As the taxi drove through the neighborhood, Nne looked out at the large houses with high walls and metal gates. She felt a surge of pride that Chako lived among such fine houses. Soon the taxi stopped in front of Chako's residence. Nne paid the driver with some of the money Odira had sent earlier and stepped out. She walked to the tall black gate that separated the house from the street. Pressing a small buzzer on the gate, Nne waited eagerly. Sweat beaded on her forehead from the long journey and the nervous anticipation. She imagined Chako's surprised and joyful face when she realized her mother had come all the way to see her. Nne smiled to herself, adjusting her scarf and brushing dust from her skirt. She could hardly wait to embrace her daughter and reassure herself that everything was fine. Nne waited by the gate for a minute, and then she heard footsteps approaching from inside. To her relief, she saw Chako appear at the gate. Chako was dressed in a smart skirt and blouse, looking just as beautiful as ever. For a moment, Nne's heart leaped with joy at seeing her daughter in person after so long. Chako, my dear, Nne called warmly, smiling wide. But Chako's face was not the bright, happy face Nne expected. Chako looked startled and uneasy. She came closer to the gate but did not immediately open it. Instead, through the bars of the gate, she managed a tense smile. Nne, you are here, she said, her voice sounding surprised and strained. Nne nodded, still smiling, although she was a bit confused by Chako's tone. Yes, my daughter, I missed you, so I decided to come. It has been such a long time. Aren't you going to let me in? Chako hesitated. She glanced back towards the house, as if checking someone was around or perhaps gathering her courage. Slowly, she unlatched the gate and opened it just a few inches, enough to stand in the gap, but not fully. Nne noticed that Chiako did not rush to hug her. In fact, Chiako kept one hand on the gate, almost as if ready to close it quickly if needed. Nne's smile faded a little. Something was not right. She held up her basket with a little laugh. See, I brought you some things from the village, she said. Fresh yams, plantains, and your favorite dried fish. I even brought those peppers you like. Chako's eyes darted to the basket and then back to her mother's face. She swallowed hard. The prophet's warning echoed in her mind. Do not eat or drink anything she gives you. Chako felt a surge of panic. Should she take the basket? What if it was cursed? But she also saw her mother's hopeful expression and felt a stab of guilt. That's very kind, Chako said quietly. She reached out slowly and took the basket by the handle. It was heavy and full. You didn't have to bring all this, Nne. I wanted to. I know you cannot get this village food easily here, Nne replied, trying to catch Chako's eyes. She longed to hug her daughter, but Chako still stood stiffly, holding the basket between them like a shield. An awkward silence fell. Chako set the basket down by her feet, still just inside the gate. Nne noticed that Chako had not invited her in or even stepped outside fully. They were literally standing with the gate between them. Nne's voice trembled slightly as she asked, Chako, my child, is everything all right? Are you not happy to see me? Chako's eyes widened as she shook her head quickly. No, it's not that, Mama. I'm just surprised. I wasn't expecting you. She attempted another smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. If I knew you were coming, I would have prepared. I'm sorry to come without telling you, Nne said, trying to reassure her. I tried calling, but I couldn't reach you. I was so worried. I just wanted to make sure you were all right. It's been so long since we talked properly. Nne's voice was gentle, with a plea in it. I've been all right, just busy, Chako replied, avoiding eye contact. She fiddled with the gate latch nervously. Work on everything, you know. Behind Chako, from the doorway of the house, her husband appeared, drawn by the voices at the gate. He recognized Nne and gave a polite wave. Good afternoon, Mama, he called out, but he did not approach, possibly sensing the tension. Good afternoon, my son, Nne responded kindly to him, then looked back to her daughter. Chako's husband lingered a moment, then went back inside to give them privacy, though the awkwardness still hung in the air. Nne took a small step forward, hoping to encourage Chako to open the gate wider. Chako, may I come in and sit for a while? I won't take much of your time. I just came to see you and know how you are doing. Chako's fingers tightened on the gate. Fear and conflict battled inside her. She remembered the prophet's stern advice to limit contact. But this was her mother, looking at her with hopeful, loving eyes. Chako's throat felt dry. She thought about lying, saying maybe she was on her way out to an appointment, but it was obvious she was home. Chako stammered. I wish I could invite you in, but the house is a bit messy and I'm actually getting ready to go somewhere with my husband. She lied. It's not a good time, Mama. Nne felt as if a cold wind had just blown through her. Even in the warm afternoon, she lowered her hand slowly. Her eyes searched Chako's face for some sign of warmth, some sign that her daughter did not want her there. Nne's voice became very soft. Chako, my dear, have I done something to upset you? If I have, please tell me. I feel like you are pushing me away. You and your brother, you both, I don't understand you anymore. I don't know why. At this, Chako's composure cracked a little. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back quickly. No, Mama, you haven't done anything, she said, her voice tight. It's nothing personal. I'm just busy. And things are complicated. But everything is fine. Everything was not fine. Both of them knew it, but neither could say it openly. Nne felt tears gathering in her own eyes now. She realized that Chiako was truly not going to let her inside. Her own daughter was standing there, keeping a gate between them. The realization pierced Nne's heart. Nne straightened, trying to maintain her dignity. She didn't want to cry in front of Chiako. With a trembling smile that was even sadder than a frown, she said, "All right, I understand. You have your life and you are busy. I won't stay. I just wanted to see you and bring you these things. Make sure you cook the yams well. They are from a new harvest and should be very tasty." Chiako bit her lip and nodded. "Thank you, Mama," she said quietly. How is everything in the village?" Nne answered softly. "Everything is fine. The village is fine. I am fine." That last sentence was a lie. She was not fine, but she hid it as best as she could. "Odira is well too, I suppose," she added gently, hoping maybe Chako would offer some explanation for the distance. Chako wiped the corner of one eye quickly and replied, "Yes, he is fine. We spoke recently." She paused, then said, "Mama, perhaps it would be best if you go back today, before it gets too late. The last bus to the village leaves in a couple of hours. You shouldn't miss it." It sounded like Chako was eager to have her leave. Nne felt as if her heart was breaking, piece by piece. She nodded slowly. "Yes, you are right. I should get going so I am not traveling in the dark." Chako finally opened the gate wider, but only to set forward and give Nne a quick stiff hug. It was the lightest embrace Nne had ever received from her daughter, as if Chako was afraid to hold her too closely. Still, Nne closed her eyes and savored even that brief contact. She wished it could last longer. "Take care, Mama," Chako said, stepping back quickly. Nne managed to say, "Take care, my daughter. I love you." As she turned to go, her voice cracking on the last words, Chako watched her mother walk back to the waiting taxi. She wanted to say "I love you" back, but the words caught in her throat. Guilt and fear weighed on her heavily. Nne looked over her shoulder one last time and lifted a hand in farewell. Chako raised hers as well, tears now spilling down her cheeks once her mother had turned away. As the taxi drove off with Nne inside, Chiako picked up the basket of food. She stood there, uncertain, her heart aching painfully. Nne sat in the taxi as it pulled away, finally allowing her tears to flow freely. She did not care that the taxi driver could see her cry. Her chest felt tight with hurt. Nne could not understand what had just happened fully. All she knew was that her daughter, her own child, had kept her outside the home she was always welcome in. It felt like a door had been shut on her, not just the physical gate, but the door to Chako's heart. The long bus ride back to the village that evening was one of the saddest journeys of Nne's life. She stared out the window, clutching her now empty basket, replaying the scene over and over. She wondered again and again, why? Why would Chako treat me this way? What has changed her heart against me? By the time Nne reached Umooro late that night, she was exhausted, both physical and emotional. The moon was high and the village quiet as she trudged back to her house. She saw a light in Mama Chinyere's home next door. Despite the hour, Mama Chinyere had waited up, worried about her friend. Nne didn't even have to explain much when she entered Chinyere's small parlor. One look at Nne's tear-streaked face and slumped shoulders told the story. "Oh, Nne," Mama Chinyere said, opening her arms. At that invitation, Nne broke down completely. She fell into her friend's arms and wept like a child. Deep heartbreaking sobs racked her body. In between cries, she choked out, She wouldn't let me in. Chako wouldn't let me into her house." Mama Chinyere rubbed Nne's back and guided her to sit down. So, it's true, she murmured sadly. She had hoped Nne's fears were unfounded, but seeing this confirmed the worst. For a long time, Nne cried in her friend's embrace. Mama Chinyere whispered soothing words. It's all right, let it out. They don't know what they are doing. They're. Eventually, Nne's sobs turned into quiet sniffles. She pulled out a handkerchief and wiped her face. I don't understand, Chinyere, Nne said in a hoarse whisper. What did I do? Why would my own children shut me out like this? Mama Chinyere shook her head, anger flashing in her eyes on Nne's behalf. My dear, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes when children get influenced by strange ideas or people, they can hurt even those they love. It must be something like that. Maybe someone told them something, or they have taken bad advice. This is not your fault. Nne looked at her friend, eyes swollen from crying. It hurt so much, she admitted. I never thought, never in my worst dream, that my children would treat me this way. Mama Chinyere sighed. I held Nne's hand. I know, my dear sister. You have been nothing but good to them. Whatever is going on, I pray it passes soon. Just remember, God sees your heart. Keep praying for them. Nne nodded weakly. She was too drained to say more. After a cup of warm tea that Chinyere insisted she drink, Nne walked slowly back to her empty house. That night, she barely slept at all. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling in darkness, tears rolling silently from the corners of her eyes. Every part of her ached with sorrow and confusion. She could still feel the cold way Chako had hugged her, and the image of that partially opened gate stood in her mind as a symbol of the distance now between her and her children.